can see, we're here in beautiful Brown County. They call these the little Smokies for a reason. They're absolutely beautiful. We've gotten to see the fog come rolling in at night. It's been stunning, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It was just clear as a bell, and within just like 3 to 5 minutes, you could see it rolling over the treetops. That is so cool. See if I can zoom you in here. There you go. That's the fog coming in. So we're going to go ahead and hit the country store, and we're going to be back.
A real treat. We just stayed in this house. It's called the Caliper Treehouse, and it's named after the tree Calipaw. I'll put a picture here, and you tell me what the tree's called. I didn't have a book with me on it last night, so I couldn't. No internet, so I couldn't find a way to say it. How do you say they say it? Calipaw?
I don't know. I'd have to.
Calipaw?
It's a beautiful tree, and there is a tree house. Janie, we're staying on the hill.
Yeah, we're staying on the hill. It was a nice drive up. We actually have a very long story attached to that, which we are going to discuss in just a few minutes. First, we want to get on to the subject of the Bible. So open your Bible to Matthew. Matthew, what, Daddy?
Chapter 25.
I'm not there either, so give me a minute. Matthew 25, which verse do you want to start with?
31.
Verse 31. All right? Matthew 25, verse 31. This one's about the sheep and the goats.
Well, and we're at a place where they have goats today. Actually, as a preparatory for this, what got us thinking about this was yesterday our home caught on fire. We were driving it up the road and
up a very steep hill.
Up a very steep hill, something happened to the transmission. It caught on fire, our home did, and
our belongings are out of there, thank
yeah,
goodness.
some of the belongings are out of there, but we had I think a pretty traumatic day. God makes good out of the bad, though, and people were very, very gracious and helpful, and other people were not very gracious and helpful. Actually, I was sitting in the motorhome. I would have liked to got out of it and talked to some people, but because of the traffic yesterday, the policeman almost got run over, and I was in the motorhome watching and honking my horn, and I just stayed there just
to keep an eye on the police officer. And plus, we had the first gentleman that pulled up, bless his heart, Pat. He pulls up and he says, "Your engine's on fire," and we're barely creeping up this hill. We're pretty much coming to a stop at this point, but we're not smelling the smoke. We had no idea anything was wrong or that it was on fire at this point. And then he came back around again, and he literally parked his truck behind our motorhome going down the hill, got out of it, and started making calls for tow trucks. Now, he did this for one purpose. That was because my husband was still inside the motorhome at this point, and he was going to try to use his truck to keep our motorhome from rolling back down that hill and going into the gully, the valleys. And
I didn't even really have much choice. If I couldn't get it to stop, it would have. The only place to go was the ditch.
But what we have is we have someone that was willing. He put on the armor of God. He was a good Christian man. Put on the armor of God, and he put himself and his property to protect my husband and our property. He's willing to give his up in order to save ours. To me, that's a hero. That is a true meaning of a hero, and I couldn't thank him enough. He protected John, because John had to stay in there with his foot on the brake, and then he got into the basement area, and he was able to get the cleats behind all the tires and everything, so it wouldn't roll backwards. By that time, then the other gentleman that lived in that house down. See, here houses kind of are down underneath the hills, like you drive on the ridges, and the houses are kind of down. So we saw this red rooftop house just right up, maybe 30 feet up from where we were, and I believe his name was Jeff, and he came out and he said, yeah, I live in the red roofed house here. And I wanted to see what was going on, but then he started making phone calls. We got to get an officer here. So one was calling a police officer, the other one was making phone calls to tow companies. And then we couldn't get a tow company, so they could start making phone calls to tow companies. The couple that pulled over in the car, they'd been married for 42 years. They started hitting their OnStar and started getting tow company names. And we finally found Ken from the west side company, and he was able to pull such a big rig out of there. Now it cost us $600, but John's alive, I'm alive. We got our clothes, our basics out. We did donate all the food so it wouldn't rot and smell really, really bad in the refrigerator, because now it had no electricity to run the refrigerator. We donated all that to the police officer, and then he gave it to a poor family, and who really could use the food. He said he knew somebody out here that could use the food, and we had just went to the store. We had just bought $150 worth of groceries. So then the other couple took him to the grocery store and bought more groceries when we found out they had a refrigerator here. So we would be able to not have to eat out. We'd be able to eat our own food. And so then we ended up buying more groceries.
Yeah.
But we didn't know that attempt. It didn't matter. We still felt like the food we felt like we gave something back after everybody had given so much. And they were all a blessing. Just all, you just feel like there's a point in your life when you're watching things burn, or you're watching things and you just, it doesn't really sink in as it's happening. I don't feel that it really sank in as anything bad. You just do what you got to do. Everybody kept handing me phones because they have to talk to the owner of the vehicle. And I think we just continued to do what we had to do. And it wasn't until they finally, we couldn't find, it was Sturgis weekend, with the cars and motorcycles here down in Little Nashville in Indiana, down here in Brown County. We were camping up at Brown County State Park. And we came out to go looking at some land for us to build our home and church on, and a place for us to bring our family to camp on and stuff. We've got somebody coming to pick us up. But we don't have a car, we don't have anything. But I just felt like God was with us the whole time. I ended up, a couple of them said that they were missing Mass at their church to help us. One of their wives was calling and saying things like, why aren't you at Mass? And he's like, and then after I talked to him, he realized we are the church, and helping one another in kindness and gifting our talents to one another and showing, well, I like to say heroism, miraculous heroism of the gods and angels. I mean, it just all came together. It worked. And the sales lady got a hold of the sales lady, and she brought us here. Remember, there was no cabins or lodging available anywhere. And she found this place available. Had to pay for it, but we were alive. We had a place to sleep now, and we had somebody at that point. We knew somebody would be able to come and pick us up. What are we going to do, John? And then God spoke to me. As missionaries, we travel in our motorhome, and when our home is on fire, we had the blessings of a lot of people that helped us. I felt very humbled.
Well, it was very humbling.
And there's a part here in the Bible about the sheep and the goats. And where did God bring us? To this place that has goats. And I was like, John, the sheep and the goats. This would make our great Sunday discussion about the sheep and the goats. We're in the perfect place. So see, God brings us, He makes good out of the bad, and He brings us about a new path or a new future, and He leads us, He gently leads us where we need to be. If we need to be here, this is where we need to be right now. I truly believe that God's will be done. And we're up on a mountain. I have no idea where. I don't even know I had an address. And our family's going to try to find it where we're at. And we stayed in a house called the Treehouse. And we are having a good time. It's very peaceful. There's chickens laying down all around us and goats.
Very peaceful environment.
Very peaceful environment. I would definitely suggest it to anybody if you want to get away. But we're not here advertising them. I'm just telling you that they did open their doors for us, and all the log cabins, all the hotels, a lodge. We know we had one of the camping spots. It was booked.
Yeah.
It was booked for Sturgis weekend, which is motorcycles and motorcycle gangs and hot rod cars and all that was going on in the park. We had no idea that was going on this weekend.
No, and actually, when we finally got a hold of the park rangers, they said, actually, you're probably better off where you're at.
Yeah, they said the parties were getting pretty wild last night. But we did get a minister and bring several people to Christ while we were in the park. And that was a joy. That was a real joy. We hope that we change some lives there and people can minister to Christ and share Christ and their blessings with other people in their groups that they're in.
And one thing we're going to talk about, and that's what we're getting to, the sheep and the goats. I'm left-handed. That word in Latin means sinister. And even though God put divided from his right hand to his left hand, He's not talking about that he doesn't like sheep or he doesn't like goats particularly, but he's talking about a principle here of what it really means to be a Christian and what it really means to be a follower of God. In reference to all Christianity, and we keep telling people over and over, Christianity is not a religion. It's where God sought us out. God created the world. He made everything, and he made us. He gave us a task. He said, conserve the world, because once it's gone, it's not going to come back. And sooner or later, it will get so bad, I'll have to intervene. And what the topic is today in reference to the sheep and the goats, the right and the left hand, is what was the criteria that God will judge us. First and foremost, it's because you believe in Jesus Christ. It's not a matter of works. But if we do believe in Jesus Christ, the tug of war in people's hearts, you know, you can put a $20 bill in the plate, and we don't even ask for contributions.
Yeah,
we totally are self-funded.
Mm-hmm.
But in reference to the collection plate, there are people that think they're of Christ that are missing the point. And we'll just read here. Janie, I'll have Janie read starting with verse 31, and we'll read about what was the criteria that God will use in the final days for judgment. And it's surprising.
When the Son of Man comes in his glory, that'd be the Shaddai glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people from one from another, as shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right, and the goats on his left. The king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world." And we've talked a lot about what happened in that creation. It was it was a labor of love, wasn't it? For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or need clothing and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go visit you?" That confused them. Well, the king will reply, "Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for the one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat, and I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me." They also will answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger, needing clothing or sick or in prison, and did not help you?" He will again reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did not do," remember he says this twice. When it's mentioned twice in the Bible, it's important. "Truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me." Then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. So
That makes me cry.
this was our week yesterday. Our motorhome was on fire. Someone put their pickup truck behind our motorhome so it wouldn't go downhill. He risked himself inside this traffic on this narrow road going up and down this curvy hill, very steep hill, and he put the boots on. This was before the officer got there. Then he was able to call the officer. Then they continued to all call tow trucks. Then they called the sales lady that got us the only room left. It was either this or sleep above a barn, because the only friends we thought we had in town said there was no room on their 30 acres we sold them. There was no room in the barn. I mean, the guy owns a tent company.
And the funny thing, yeah, that, you know, he owns a tent company, and
And the Lord told me right then, he said, walk away. He's not welcoming you into his home. And then John, when we came here, and all the goats last night, and I looked at the goats, I fell in love with the goats and the chickens, and I thought, this is where John and I, this is the exact kind of property we were looking for. But I thought, I know there's a lesson here. And then John reminded me of this passage, the sheep and the goats. Thank you.
I love it.
I was pretty upset at that point that we had given so much to somebody who was willing to give back, even if it wasn't giving to us. What happens if somebody that lives here, what happens if one of their houses burned? Or somebody here, one of them got in a car accident, and they are buddies and all know each other. Would he give them food or comfort? Would he stop at the accident?
Well, and the police officer and other people that knew him actually were wondered, man, what kind of man is this? And the parallel to this,
they're friends.
They're friends. The parallel to that is God, the creator of the universe, has given us wonderful things and provided for us a way to make a living, a way to live, a way to do. But the criteria, judgment, is not all the religious things that people try to do. And it's not even doing it, because the religious or the righteous, we're not a religion. It's God seeking us out. The righteous are those people that do the things that are at times considered not religious at all. To give a drink of water to someone, to clothe a naked person. You see someone naked and you want to run away. But you know, the response is not to run, but to intervene and to do something. The man that saw our home on fire could have just let it go, and we could have burned up.
Hey, you're on fire. Good luck with that. Try not to roll backwards downhill. he could have, and a lot of people were angry. They were almost running over. John had to honk several times to have the officer get back, because he was at an angle in his rearview mirror and was looking forward down the lane, down that curve, that John could see what was coming and the officer couldn't. And he went out and got on his yellow vest. He was waving
even then, he
around.
almost got ran over. And if I hadn't been in the motorhome honking the horn, there was one car that almost hit him.
Oh yeah.
Because he was on the phone trying to get a tow truck to get us out of the way. Yeah.
Well, no, not the police officer. The other guy was. The police officer was guiding traffic, but he was turning around talking to us because he heard us talking about the empirical science that backs the Bible, and he wanted to hear more. Mm-hmm. So between cars coming, he was listening. So he was, and this is what we ended up deciding before we left. We all gave each other a hug. Some of them continued to help us and help load our car, but someone else's car up with our things out of our home. And we got some clothes out of that there. We got our clothes, our wedding rings, and a few other things. But we donated anything that was salvageable that wouldn't rot, and like the meat and everything we just bought, and we donated all that. Even my Brown County apple butter and sweet potato butter.
Yeah.
I'd never had sweet potato butter, but we can go get more. And that's the point I want to make. We are alive. We're together. We're still happy. We've become very humbled out of the experience, and we're more understanding now than we were before about other people's plights and problems, especially like when they've lost their home and things. And I know these types of events are what change you to help others, and we do them. Where do these values come from? They come from our parents, and they come as Bible values.
They're Christian values, and the man that drove us around, he said the 10 Commandments and God's laws are there, and we just have to make other laws to kind of circumvent those at times. Yeah. So God's desire for us to do good, and His commission to us, conservation, and conservationalism is not a naturalistic, materialistic view of things, because in the natural world, things that die are called out, and things that happen, it's the end of the species or the end of a certain type of animal or plant or tree or whatever it happens to be. So the call to conservationism is actually biblical in reference to God saying, hey, my purpose for you in life is to take care of people in the chaos. Take care of yourself as best you can, take care of others, and take care of the environment that we're in. And those acts of demonstration are actually a demonstration of faith that actually in the final judgment make the difference between going to hell, which if you notice here, hell is a place prepared for Satan and his angels.
It was not prepared for us. We were not supposed to go there.
No.
It's a horrible place. It was never meant for us.
Never, 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 never meant for us. So the concept that God is an angry God and he's up there, you know, wants to smite everybody. No. His plan for us, and if you look around at nature, is to care for us, to care for the natural world, and to care for one another. And
Is there another passage that you wanted us to see?
Well, this is the only passage in reference to the final judgment that Jesus is in Matthew. And it's a really important thing because and fellow Christians and his non-appearance at Mass or religious festivity. And whatever Christian organization you have or that you're involved in, the Christian thing to do and the Good Samaritan thing to do that Jesus taught about is helping, is offering a glass of water, clothing those people that don't have clothes.
Just comforting someone or being there for them and putting an arm around them and comforting them in their time of mourning or their time of sorrow or when they're scared. Oh, this might be our ride. Hold on. Yep, it is. Hello? Oh, you think you're here? Okay, we're going to come down. We're going to guide you in.
Gotta guide her in. We love you.
Okay, hang on.
We love you. God's blessings.
Hold on, grab my camera.
Okay, I'm going to close it up. We love you. God's blessings. And may the Lord be with you. Take care of one another and take care of yourself and the church. God's blessings. Amen. I love you.
God bless you. And remember, we love you. Go with God and be safe. And remember, you always have friends and family in the church. No matter where they are, they'll be there when you need them. God puts them in your path.
And if the church isn't being the church, that's a real issue.